What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Sunday, November the 24th. Happy Sunday, everybody. We are fresh off of Full Gear. It's Thanksgiving week for everybody here in the good old US of A. I'm fired up. It's a holiday week. We got wrestling to talk about. We're going to break down the whole card, or most of the card, for you. It was a long card, and I don't mean that negatively. We're not going to probably get them all, but we'll get as many as we can in. We've got some extra time today, so I'm stoked about that. And I have a sweet crew hanging out with me as usual. 3 daily broadcast originals, no less. I'm going to start first and foremost, keep this one continentally in North America. We've got our head of reviewing just north of the border here in Canada, Coby Galenzoski. What's going on, my friend? Good to see you again.
It's good to be here, of course. It's always a pleasure to be here for review shows. Of course, those are my specialty here, Wrestling Republic, head of reviewing. It was a blast. I can't sit here and complain about the in-ring wrestling. I can kind of sit here and complain about the structure of the show, and maybe the crowd was not that good compared to other crowds we've seen this year and in the past. It was a weaker crowd, but I mean, from an in-ring standpoint, from the wrestling, I can't say. There's a lot of good things that were done last night, and it was high quality wrestling.
It'll be fun. AEW does seem to always deliver when it comes to pay-per-views, no question about it. Lord Virus of Nurgle commented Clark over on Instagram, but then he also commented, Coby, how do you actually rate a show? So if you head over to the website, wrestlingrepublic.com, and you check out Coby's reviews, the system, you can see the system. It's posted, correct, Coby? Really quickly, right?
So briefly, if you go on the website, you got the article. There is a format that all reviewers do follow. But if you go to the bottom, there is a link to the system, which shows you how we rate matches, in-ring promos, and then the overall show itself. There is a system. This is not just throwing stars onto the wall and seeing if they stick. This is an actual system. There's a way we do it. There's a way things are laid out. There's more of a breakdown for pay-per-views that shows how each rating is made up for each match, but it's the same system for weekly shows and pay-per-views and PLEs as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And do check that out. It is one of the coolest things that we do here at WR. Anytime you're rating anything, it's generally going to be somewhat subjective. We have a system in place that keeps it as objective as possible, right? And it breaks down exactly how you get to the number as far as the stars are concerned. So it is something I think you'll definitely enjoy. If you haven't seen the breakdown of the system yet, we put a lot of time into it, especially Coby, and he deserves a lot of credit for that, no doubt. But we've also got 2 more co-hosts hanging with me today. One more over here in the continental United States, North America. Speaking of, Ignacio is back. What's going on? How are you? How have you been?
Oh, Clark. I thought today was going to be a Sunday fun day, but I messaged you yesterday, right? What was going to be the topic? I thought we were going to have what does Ben call that game? What is it? Hell, fire, and brimstone, or hell, heaven, and
hell, heaven, and
heaven, hell, and purgatory, right?
Purgatory.
There we go.
I thought we were going to do I thought we were going to do a name the pay-per-view or whatever. They're like, no, we're reviewing Full Gear, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, Christ Almighty, and I said it to you in the message. I go, you're going to make me watch that garbage? That's this week? And then about 15 minutes later, I was like, I messaged you again. I don't know if you saw it. Like, okay, I ordered it. There, I'm watching it.
Yes, I was dying, Ignacio.
It's just not. This is not going to be a Sunday fun day for this AEW review. But let's go ahead. Let's get the ball rolling here.
Honest to goodness, Ignacio, is kind of funny because when I saw the lineup for today's show, I was like, Ben did that on purpose. He did that on purpose. I know he did.
It's been a good. You know what? I'm excited. I'm excited to be on a show with Soul again because it's been a while. Me, Soul, and Chaos got to get together. That way we can get the old band back together again to do a
Yes,
ticket to the table.
I didn't even think about that. It
Because
has been
ticket to
forever.
the table rated R.
And speaking of Soul, he is here today. I'm finally going to toss this one across the pond. He's been waiting patiently for us. Our host of the Soul Session, Soul, is in the building. Can't review an AEW show without you, right, Soul?
Yeah, nonetheless, I mean, that's why I'm not in the studio or suited up, because I know Ignacio is here and I kind of don't want to sully my studio with his takes. But nonetheless, I'm taking an easy day in the rocking chair. Let's get on with a fun show then, shall we, boys?
I love it. I'm excited. And I dig the rocking chair. Respect. That's a clutch move. I'm a big fan of rocking chairs when it comes to seating arrangements. I think it's an underrated move. But speaking of underrated moves, let's talk about Mercedes Moné, because there's a finisher, that gory special type finisher that she's been using for a while since her debut in New Japan. Chris Statlander kicked out of last night. That kind of blew me away. I didn't expect that. Not only that, this match got time. I actually really, truly enjoyed it. I think bell to bell, it might be Moné's best match since she's debuted in AEW. I'm going out on a limb and saying that. I'm not saying it's the best match of all time or even it was the best match of the night. But bell to bell, this was absolutely clean. And I liked it. The crowd did go crazy for that kick out. I got to get your thoughts on it, Coby. If you want to talk about what you rated it, feel free. If you don't, go check out that article, my friends.
Well, so that's the fun part here is I get to have the opportunity to kind of go in the personal side of things. I'm not talking as the reviewer. I'm talking about a personality on the podcast here.
Fair.
But I fully agree. And I can sit here and I can say that Moné and Statlander, well, the build was not perfect. And we're not going to beat a dead horse at that point because the build is far and gone right now. But this match did deliver. It was the one and only women's match on the main card, and it was really good. It was very well done. You can tell they worked on it. I mean, the psychology-wise, you got the working of the Chris Statlander's knee, and they were able to capture the crowd. Now, it was a tough crowd to capture for the majority of the show. But by the end of it, they were in it. They were in the palms of their hands. They were wrapped around their fingers, however you want to describe it. It was a very good match. I didn't fully like the finish because it felt abrupt and it felt like, oh, why did we just end this off of essentially a stun gun, which was, a move how many years ago that people used, like Austin in that. But it felt like it was a very good match, and then the finish kind of fell flat. But I fully agree with this. This is Moné's best match since coming to AEW. One can very much argue it's Moné's best match since WrestleMania 37, Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. This was probably the best match since then.
I actually am in agreement with Coby, but I heard that laugh there. I'm gonna send this one to you, Ignacio, because I gotta get. Obviously, we're gonna have a different perspective on this one. But Ignacio, give us your thoughts on Moné versus Statlander last night.
Well, I timed the matches that I'm directly gonna review. I didn't time this match, but all the matches on this pay-per-view were just way too long. The ones that were probably supposed to be given time were given the time, but the problem is the other matches were given too much time, and I think this was probably one of them. But it was okay. It was an okay match. It wasn't great. The part of the psychology with this match is that Mercedes Moné was working the leg right for against Statlander, but she was selling it properly, but then not selling it properly. And Moné wasn't following up on it. That Statlander was trying to sell the leg, but that she would pick up and kind of throw around Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks, I get it. She's not Nia Jax. She weighs about 125, 30, 40 pounds, maybe at max, less than that, maybe. And then she tries to work the leg, but Mercedes does. She's working the leg, but she's not doing a follow up. And what I mean by that is that why are you working the leg, but when you're going for the win, you're going for pinfalls, and you're not going for submissions. You should follow up on working the leg with a submission, trying to make her tap out, or else what's the point of working the angle as far as working the leg? They're not stars. Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, she's not a star in AEW. She's only a star when she's involved with WWE because she's got Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Bayley to work off of, and her promos haven't been there. I can't judge any of these matches that I'm going to review based on story because AEW is horrible at telling stories. It's atrocious. They don't tell stories. And it's just Kris Statlander is overrated. She's not the star that everybody thinks she is or she's going to be. Sasha Banks isn't a star unless she's involved with WWE.
Right.
I guess I agree with Coby. Not thinking about it, this match was okay, but the last great match that Sasha Banks had was that WrestleMania match that she had with Bianca Belair. Without the WWE machine behind her, Sasha Banks isn't a star. She puts on okay matches, but that's about it. This match was subpar and it went on way too long.
I hear you, but one thing that you mentioned that I really do want to address, Ignacio, was when you were talking about selling the leg. And I think this is a modern day type of a issue in wrestling across the board, not just in this match or it happens often. You notice when limb working is a part of the psychology of a match. If it's an arm, it's probably a little easier to sell, right? If it's maybe they're working the back, ribs, whatever have you. Whenever it's a leg or a knee, wrestlers will sell the leg and knee as well as possible and then have these sudden bursts where all of a sudden the knee's okay for like 15 seconds or the leg's okay. And if you're selling the leg, it should limit your moveset at some point. And so as far as like working a limb in this current era is concerned, you got to be careful, I feel like, working an ankle or a leg. If you're the person whose ankle or leg is being worked, I guess, for a lack of a better way to put it, because there's so much explosiveness in the current move sets. It's hard to avoid, right? Like Cody having his knee worked with Kevin Owens is a perfect example. But then suddenly he can still do a Cody cutter. Really? He can elevate and
leg.
Doing
it off the other leg.
He did. And that's the psychology. He got it right? He went off of the bad leg, or I'm sorry, the good leg, as opposed to both legs, and he made it look different. Little things like that that's why I was saying it was the perfect example. Little things like that are very important. I still did very much enjoy the match, but I didn't notice it in the moment until you mentioned it. The swift recovery of the knee a few times. And that's one thing. But Soul, obviously, you watched the match. We've got one, not a big fan, but we also do all seem to kind of be in agreement that it's Moné's best match yet in AEW. Would you be in agreement on that? And what are your thoughts for the future of the TBS title picture? You're muted.
I know, I was coughing. I was being polite.
Oh, cough button, fair.
Here's the thing. I think Mercedes this year, this match is probably one of her best, up there with Stephanie Vaquer, Forbidden Door. The match itself, I had no problem with. I thought it was a very great showing. I think Mercedes Moné is a great in-ring worker as well as Statlander. So yeah, I have no problems with the match. I mean, it went 19 minutes and 46 seconds for people wanting to know the exact time. It's AEW's longest women's match currently to this date. I think it was fine, but if people say it's too long, then hey, it's too long. That's your preference. TBS title itself. I mean, we did see somebody return in the main event tonight. Is that somewhere we could go? Maybe Jamie Hayter. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting title picture, especially for the TBS Championship. I think out of all the belts currently in AEW. But yeah, no, I think it was a fine match. I had no real complaints of it. I thought they did the jobs well.
Absolutely. And that's fair, man. I enjoyed it from an entertainment standpoint, no question. And obviously between four of us, it's easy to sort of get critical and we all have different opinions on it. But at the end of the day, I was very much entertained by the match. Speaking of matches I was entertained by, let's talk about the next one. Let's talk about Maxwell Jacob Friedman and Roderick Strong, because I was a little bit critical of the promo exchange Wednesday night when it came to Roddy's side, because it just didn't seem so passionate considering how low MJF went. It did seem passionate, but it, you know, like it was such a low blow what Max said about his family. You know, I thought it might have garnered an even more emotional response. I don't know that it mattered. The way that this match was executed was great. MJF is so scummy, it's perfect. The more he does sleazy stuff, the more I'm just like, gosh dang it, it's brilliant. It is like, I almost don't want to appreciate how good the heel work is at times. Like, I want to find a way to be critical of Max and can't. He just knows how to get under people's skin, whether it's his opponent or the fans or whoever it is. He's got an ability. He's got that it factor when it comes to that part of the business that you just don't see often. I enjoyed this. Obviously, we are working our way towards Adam Cole here, right, Soul? And I'm going to ask you about it. Does it feel at least like the future is a little bit brighter when it comes to the storyline? Because there's obviously been some criticism about it, you know, with the devil mask and then the switching of heel and face and all of that coming in. I feel like after last night, despite even further criticism this week, we're in a much better place with this storyline. Would you agree with that?
I think it's in an all right place. I mean, obviously, this storyline has been derailed due to injuries and circumstances out of, you know, people's controls. I thought the match itself was fine. For me, if I had to tier the matches of the night, it would be at the bottom, still in a positive way, but it was at the bottom of the tier list for me personally. I really enjoy Roddy's in-ring work. You know, going back to his days with the Undisputed Era and even Ring of Honor, he's always been a grand worker. MJF as well has been absolutely grand as well. You know, anything you put him in, he's really enjoyable. He's had quite a good fun year for not being as active throughout all of it. Every moment he is given, he does shine with it. American title picture and now this, so he's done very well for himself. I think obviously it's going to be Adam Cole at World's End, obviously 1 year after the original Devil turn, the switcheroo, and you know, play off the 1 year anniversary of that. I think obviously World's End is going to be the Edition Arena in Florida, where I think Cole's from, I think. So it'll be interesting to how they play out the dynamic there. So yeah, nonetheless, that's where we're heading. I can understand why people don't like it, but hopefully with the World's End, it will be truly the end of MJF and Cole for at least a good long while.
I agree, and I got to give you monster credit, Soul. You called earlier than anybody else I've seen. This has to be at World's End. It makes the most sense, and I think you're absolutely spot on correct about that. Like, that is where it's happening, and you said it first. I was on the show with you when you did. You definitely deserve credit for that one. Let's keep it rolling, though, because we got a bunch of matches to break down here, even with the extra time. let's keep it going. Let's talk really quickly here now about Jay White and Hangman Adam Page, two New Japan staples from back in the day. As we know, two guys that have had success in AEW in different ways. Hangman obviously being there earlier than Jay White definitely, you know, slides the scale when it comes to that. I enjoyed the match. I mean, these guys can wrestle, but it did feel like a bit of a replay of last time in some ways. Like, we've seen these guys go, and the pacing in the match itself very similar. Like, I had some feelings I've seen this before. Doesn't mean I didn't want to see it again, but we didn't get a big old different needle moving finish or anything like that. We just got a really high quality long wrestling match. Obviously, Ignacio, you mentioned earlier you had the times and whatnot. Talk to me about this one. I could see the look on your face. You tell me what your thoughts were on Hangman and Jay White.
22 minutes and 47 seconds of agonizing pain. This is one of those that didn't deserve the time it got. But number one, the problem, this is how you know that in AEW, they don't coordinate very well. There's rumors that they don't have production meetings and all that stuff, or producers, or I don't know, maybe both. This was after the Monet match, and the issue with that is that in the Monet match, you had an angle where they're trying to work a limb. They're trying to work the leg of Statlander. Well, in this match, Hangman's trying to work Jay White's knee or ankle, and then White's trying to work Hangman's leg. So it's the same thing as we saw in the last match. And they did a better job as far as follow-up. I mean, Hangman locked in a couple of submissions on Jay White, but for the most part, I'm watching the same thing, the same type of in-ring psychology as was presented in the last match. And for these guys having a feud that they've had for the past years, because apparently Jay White has now 5 wins over Hangman, and there wasn't much aggression in this match. Like, I don't know, like Hangman's just supposed to be this born again aggressive personality, and I just kind of really didn't see that in this match. They were on the outside for a long period of time. At one time, they buried the referee. They didn't pay attention to the count, or the referee. I should say the referee didn't even attempt to make a count until 3 minutes into they were on the outside, wrestling, fighting, whatever. And then when the ref finally decided to get in the ring and start counting, then they pay attention to the count. But it was all over the place. What else here? I took my notes. Hangman. It just Jay White tried to work Hangman's leg, and then Hangman tried to do a what do you call it? The buckshot lariat.
Buckshot lariat.
And it was just it was somber. The crowd was a little somber for this one. I mean,
it did feel weird.
It was nothing special. It wasn't anything special. It was an okay match, I guess, for who was involved, but bad storytelling during the match, redundancy as far as the last match, it was there.
The one other thing that you mentioned about Hangman's current character, like a little bit more sadistic would have been nice at this stage. Like, that's what we saw. The bar was set so high with his rivalry that drove him to this point with Swerve. And he's still playing that, I don't want to say playing that character. He's still in that, mental state from a character perspective, right? That's what his brain is like. And I would have liked to see a little bit more violence or intention as far as violence is concerned when it comes to Hangman.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It felt like, okay, this is a rematch. This is a rematch from Muscle Dream, and this is what felt weird. It's like, okay, well, where's the next level? We're not taking it up enough.
Yeah, I thought they were going to.
There were counters. Exactly. They would have upped it if they put a stipulation on it. But this was just. Yeah. This felt like a repeat. There was good wrestling. I do think it differed enough because they were both going after each other's knee. In Monet, the psychology was Chris's knee, and then Monet's facial expressions when she is selling and taking bumps. I thought there was at least enough difference between the two matches, but this, aside from counters and the shin breaker on the outside on the stage
was pretty happened. That was pretty electric.
That happened at Wrestle Dream.
Right.
Hangman countered this time, which is smart. You tease a spot from last time and then it counters. You do a reversal. You don't go that direction. There were good elements and good counters that built off of their last encounter, but it never reached that next level.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what were your thoughts on the match, though, when it came to Hangman and Jay White?
I mean, personally, I think this was my second favorite match of the night. I love how these two mix in the ring. The fact is that why would Jay White target Hangman's leg? Obviously, it stops the attempts to do the buckshot lariat and as well to play the Deadeye. The Deadeye needs the legs to make the jump and then bring down the opponent. And also, can we please talk about how beautiful Jay White's counter is? Like the counter when the buckshot lariat happened, and then he countered into the Blade Runner, went into the Deadeye, then into the ankle lock into the Blade Runner. Masterful finish. I thought that was beautiful. I'll be honest, I was surprised Jay White got the win. I thought it was going to be Hangman and then a third match at World's End. But hey, I ain't complaining with Jay White getting a win. And I think as well with Hangman, loss really adds to his desperation of character. It really adds to him becoming more desirable and more desperate with tactics. And, think about it. How more desperate did he get with Swerve to ending up burning down the guy's childhood home? Sometimes desperate needs spring out desperate measures.
100%, 100%. And I apologize, by the way, for checking my phone there. Shad gave me a mid-show call, which always cracks me up. That's a good one. Monster shout out, Shoddy. But yes, no, I hear that for sure. And also, and when I say we, like wrestling community was kind of critical of Jay White's initial run in AEW. A lot of wrongs have been righted over the summer when it comes to Jay White's standing within the AEW lexicon. And I think that is worth noting, right? As far as like him being a legitimate singles contender, he's got wins over former world champion now on more than one occasion, right? Like the trending in the right direction if it's the stock market. Let's talk about something I have to get off my chest. We had Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay, and I've been highly critical of Kyle Fletcher since Mark Davis has been gone. Who is he? I don't get him. I didn't get it. This guy can freaking wrestle. Okay, I get it now. I didn't know he was that good. I get it now. The character work after the haircut, I get it. Okay. I was wrong. I'll admit it. I'll admit it this time. I was wrong about Kyle Fletcher. The guy can go. The guy can really go. And I really, 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 really liked the way that he beat Will Ospreay, the way that this match went. It felt like a fight. It felt emotional. It felt like it mattered a ton more to both than some other matches you see regularly on PLEs or pay-per-views, whichever you'd like. It was really good work out of both Fletcher and Ospreay. Ospreay's always sublime. So like I not compliment Ospreay enough, but there's no doubt Fletcher looked outstanding. And I gotta give flowers where they're due. Coby, did you feel the same way? This match of the ones we've discussed so far, this is the first one I'll for sure say like over delivered in my eyes.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I think like you said, over delivering, and it did. I mean, I knew what to expect. I've seen Kyle Fletcher for years. Of course, we'll get to our beautiful ad break and promotion, but there are a lot of really good Kyle Fletcher matches on Demand Progress, and Clark will introduce that later. But Kyle Fletcher's been very athletic. He's been very good. There's matches where you can see him grow, and I think this year away from Mark Davis has genuinely benefited him. I almost, to me, when I'm pretty sure it was a broken wrist, that should not take over a year to necessarily recover in that sense. But I mean, it did at that, and that's kind of the interesting part. Kyle's had a year. He won the Ring of Honor TV champion. He was able to spend some time there, having solid matches for the Ring of Honor brand in a time where Ring of Honor really doesn't have a lot going for it. And then this caps the year for him. He defeats one of AEW's top stars in Will Ospreay. I think this is the case of Will Ospreay having a good relationship with someone and going, I want to elevate this guy and let's do this right. And I think that's what they did. It was well done. Obviously, you have the risk factor, and I think it looked safe. It looked performed well. The tombstone on the stairs, and overall, and all that. But the one thing to say that I don't think was intentional, but was interesting, is Will Ospreay had the tape, the kinesio tape on his neck, and one on his shoulder as well. But by the end of it, that tape was not there anymore. That was kind of a testament to, okay, well, this is a war. This is two people who very much know each other inside and out, and were able to whip out counters. You saw the neckbreaker counter to the Os cutter. While I agree that final kick out before the end might have been too much, I think they did well with it because Ospreay didn't get a run. Ospreay didn't get another Oscutter or Stormbreaker or anything. He tried to get the Hidden Blade and it was too weak. And then you saw that top rope brainbuster, which if I'm Kyle Fletcher, I'm making sure that move is very, very well protected.
To your point too about like the tape part of it, it reminds you of almost like the NFL player that steps off the field after like a great game and has like the ripped sleeve or like, right? Like there's a little tear in the jersey, there's mud on the right. Like you can tell what just happened was impactful because of the fact that the tape was like falling off and coming up, right? Like you may have been trying to protect your shoulder, get more blood flow, what kinesiology tape does, but I loved that part of it. It was a great aesthetic, and we've talked a lot about limb working on this episode. That's kind of the theme of the episode. Well done on both Fletcher and Ospreay for that part of it, 100%. Let's though talk about, speaking of 100% things, let's talk about something I really, really, really want to help you guys out with, because if you have not checked out Progress yet, Demand Progress Plus, what are you waiting for? It's one of the best tape libraries on the internet. We already know you're a wrestling fan if you're here watching. Check out Demand Progress Plus. Not only that, we're going to help you out even further. Use this code WATCHPROGRESS1. You're going to get 50% off your first month of On Demand Progress Plus, home of not only Progress, but Defy and many more promotions. Some of your absolute favorites got their start in Progress. You can watch through the whole tape library. All the current chapters are off the charts. What are you waiting for? One more time on that code. That's use code WATCHPROGRESS1. That's 50% off of your first month. Complete no-brainer stuff, my friends. Speaking of no-brainer stuff, though, let's talk about our next match of the evening, and that is Jack Perry versus Daniel Garcia. So Daniel Garcia is that dude. Man, he is that dude. Talk to me about this match, my friend.
I really liked it. From what Full Gear card was, there was definitely breaks up in what the match does. This was a more slightly hardcore and technical match, and I really enjoyed it. And Garcia is somebody I've always very enjoyed. I remember when he debuted in AEW with 2.0, obviously Matt and Angelo Parker, and he had the great presence about him. Obviously, he's former Ring of Honor Pure Champion with being Wheeler Yuta, but he's always kind of limbo there. And then, he was obviously with the Jericho Appreciation Society, which was terrible. He had the bit with Bryan Danielson, which was very interesting. A lot of people were behind him, but then again, that changed. I think now him holding and bringing back that amazing looking belt, I'm happy with. I think when we'll look back at Jack Perry's TNT Championship run, I think it's a mixed bag. Just simply because obviously the Elite storyline didn't go the way I think a lot of people wanted it to or expected it to, so that obviously will be a bit of a hamper on it. But brought back the tradition of custom TNT Championships that he made himself, actually disappearing a replica like that. So I thought that was a really cool aspect of it. But then again, Garcia, I think he will be a really good TNT champion, and to have a babyface champion in AEW as well is sorely needed. So I think he'll add really great things. Will he be open challenge, or will he be whatever he wants to design for the belt? Will be interesting. I know he announced in the post-scrum that he'll be in the Continental Classic, and I've seen people go, "Oh, why would he immediately go in that? He's obviously going to be a demotion or something like that. Or he's not going to good shine for the TNT Championship." Like last year, Garcia went 0. He didn't get any points in the Continental Classic last year. To my ability, I think Mark Briscoe got 1 and he got 0. Now, a year later, he wants to go back in and prove his growth, and what way to prove growth than come in as a champion. So I think that's a fair point. I don't think his title's going to be on the line in any capacity. I don't know why people have said that, or like he'll give them a title shot if he beats them. So if he's beaten by like 12 people, that's 12 title shots immediately. I think that's just stupid. I think if anything, it will prove his point of being developed. I think he'll go very far in the Classic. I don't think he's going to get to the semifinals or win it, but I think he'll have a good showing. I think it will show that he has more growth to go, being so young. Maybe you could build a feud off this about one participant in his block. I know Tony Khan has announced that tomorrow on Monday. Yes, on Monday, they'll be announcing the rest of the Continental Classic participants on YouTube. So that'll be very exciting to see who's actually going to be in the Classic for the gold and blue block. But nonetheless, I'm very happy that Garcia is a champion, a singles champion as well in AEW. Jack Perry, I wonder where he goes, because without the Bucks there, and I think Okada will probably go off and do his own thing as well after the Classic, he's going to be in a very odd spot. I think maybe Perry going away and coming back down the line might be a good decision. I think it would be also a good call for him to turn face, bring back the Jungle Boy of old, maybe even just call him Jack Jungle Perry or something like that, or just even Jack Perry with a new clean-shaven look and a new tidier look, to be on the good side of this AEW versus Death Riders situation, because I think that's where is a position he could thrive. And as well, if you take him away from the scapegoat stuff, it references all the Punk stuff in the past, and I don't think that's really needed anymore. You let it run its course. It did a part. I don't think it's needed anymore with the scapegoat.
I just want Baltimore back, Soul. Worse than life. I just want to wave again. Please. That's fun. I don't care whether you like Jack Perry or not, whether you like anything or not. When they play the song and you get to wave, it's fun. You can't deny that. It's fun. And that is what watching pro wrestling is about. A lot of the time, I agree with you. Watching Danny Garcia get the win, his arc as far as his career has been concerned the last few years is so impressive to me. I saw him not debut. The first time I ever saw him wrestle live was at Rampage before All Out 2021, before Cole and Bryan debuted. He was the main event against Darby Allin. And at the time, he was still hanging out with Matt Menard and Cool Hand Ange. And I remember watching him and thinking, like, who is this guy? I like character-wise, almost the same as I felt about Kyle Fletcher. And so quickly, he filled those gaps, even with like the dancing, as goofy as it was. Going to see him at PWG Vortex with Carter, I learned all about him. You watch that Iron Man match with him and Speedball. Whew, that guy can go. There is something to Daniel Garcia, and it's really cool to see him finally get his flowers when it comes to the title picture and whatnot. He is a better wrestler than people realize, and there's no doubt about that. The guy is absolutely dedicated to this art, sport, whatever you'd like to call it. He is a pro wrestler all the way through it, and I think he deserved it last night, and I agree with you 100%. It was awesome. Let's move on, though, to Takeshita. The Don Callis family, Takeshita and Ricochet. I don't know. Okay, there was a lot of wrestling last night. This match was really rock solid, but it also felt the most predictable to me. Ignacio, not to be negative, but I know you're going to help me out on this one. What were your thoughts on Takeshita and Ricochet?
The Don Callis family, that's the first problem. Bobby Heenan rolling in his grave, after Don Callis taking the name of his faction. But so here's a problem I've always had with AEW. Why do the managers, have they ever explained why do the managers go to commentary? Have they ever explained that?
I don't know. I think Callis does a good job, but to your point, I don't think it's ever been explained.
Does it need an explanation?
Because the manager shouldn't have to get on commentary to get the wrestler over. That's the announcer's job, which I would like to also add. The announcing for this pay-per-view was egregious. It was awful. Everything was about the commentary was awful. You shouldn't need the manager to get on commentary to get the wrestler over. The manager is supposed to be at ringside in support of his talent,
and he was.
Don Callis has the ability to do, but they don't allow him to do it. I guess I don't know. He got off commentary and 3/4 of the way of the match and showed some life, but not much. I mean, him better than anybody would know how to do that, and I think he's one of those guys that if you're going to revive the manager position, it probably should be in WWE, because I think he would do a lot better in WWE in that role. But anyway,
I actually do think that's
I like
fair.
Takeshita.
Keep going, sorry.
Yeah, I like.
I think that's fair.
Like I want to like him more. I want to like him. I want to like Takeshita more. But this match was just it was just there, egregious leg slapping. Typical Ricochet flip flop and roll in front row and flip for no reason. Doesn't add anything to any maneuver. Doesn't add anything to the match. He's okay at selling. Ricochet's always been okay at selling, except he kind of oversells sometimes. And I thought they had a flat finish. Like the finish was just there. It was a brainbuster off the top rope, and then 1, 2, 3. That was it. If anything should finish a match, that should be it probably. But I mean, it's just kind of. I thought the crowd was kind of somber for this one, especially for the finish. I mean, it just wasn't impressive. Takeshita kind of dominated the match for a good portion of it, I think, which I think he should have because he had the size advantage and so forth. And I think he's a great talent. But the only time this title has ever meant anything, this international title, is when NJF had it. And it was the American title. That was great stuff. I just don't think a throwaway match for a throwaway title for a subpar match that lasted 19 minutes. Again, way too long.
Right. And so I agree with quite a bit of what you said there. Actually, to be honest, when it comes to why is the manager on commentary and whatnot, the one thing I do disagree with is I think Matt Menard has shown so much improvement and has been such a revelation on AEW commentary. I do think that he was a high spot on commentary last night. Matt Menard was good. Matt Menard was good across the board. He knows what he's doing. He's current. He's more modern in his delivery and whatnot, but he's kind of still in character. He's got a great voice for the booth. I do think Matt Menard has a bright future in the booth. Not that like it was something, world changing when it comes to commentary last night, but every single week he seems to be just getting better and better and better. And he's really good with the one-liners. He had a couple that got me good. So I do.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I'm cool with being critical of commentary, but I got to give Menard credit. I think he's done a heck of a job. And I think he fits that role as well as anybody we've seen inserted into that role straight from being an active wrestler in quite some time, right? Like his personality really does fit the mic in the booth and whatnot. We also have a comment here from Wrestle Takes, and we had a raid over on Twitch, so I got to give you a monster shout out to my friend Cam. What a legend. Thank you. Absolutely. And then Matt is his fave shot as well with that. And he said he's funny. Yeah, that is my one. When it comes to commentary, I agree with you. Commentary was it wasn't the A game last night. But Menard, he was the highlight of the commentary, no question to me. Let's move on to another match though. Speaking of
the one thing I just want to say briefly is the thing that irks me more is the fact that we see Don Callis come in and he does commentary. The fact that now that makes that a 4-man booth. And the fact that they're still doing a 3-man booth is rocky most of the time.
I will say, having
and now we're adding
a
a
matches
man.
From a nostalgia point, I get people being like, "Oh, why are we bringing Jim Ross again?" I'm like, because we only get so many more. And
right.
like,
no, this is not Jim Ross. This is about Don Callis. They're bringing.
Right. No, I know.
Like, I mean, Jericho would do it. Jericho was doing it for the JAS.
Yep.
But like, that's the thing. There should be some sort of we don't need 3 color commentators.
Right.
We need the booth has always been too convoluted in AEW, and I do think that's the thing. I do think that's where this is storytelling, Ignacio. This is where you mentioned it. Don Callis started the match in the booth, and he had to get up. He had to get involved in the match. There's room and ways to maneuver and work that. But that's the thing. This match was the most underwhelming match on the show.
Yeah.
And the biggest pop of the night was Don Callis getting booed. Like why this match just did not hit. And these are 2 really good wrestlers.
Which is interesting because Takesha's been on fire lately, right?
Exactly.
That is the most difficult part of that. But let's move on because we got 2 more matches to cover and only so much time. Let's talk about Bobby Lashley and Swerve Strickland, 2 ex-WWE guys, as we know. I think Swerve Strickland probably, when we're talking just like pure elevating yourself by moving between companies, there's an argument to be made. Nobody's done it better than Swerve over the last few years. I loved his work in WWE. Swerve in AEW is something different. Swerve in AEW, he looks like a star. He sounds like a star. He is a star. This match with Lashley, I like booking it. It's a great match to bring in Bobby Lashley. Once again, I do feel like it's a little weird how we've kind of overshadowed Shelton since Lashley's debut. But I had no problem with this one. Swerve seems to deliver every pay-per-view these days. He really does. And Coby, I'm going to go to you. Do you agree on that?
Well, he does. He does. And I don't think I can sit here and say the last time Swerve didn't deliver on a pay-per-view. To me, this, and you said this earlier, Clark, that Takeshi and Ricochet might have been the most predictable match. No, it was this. Because there was no way Lashley was going to make his pay-per-view debut, which should have been his in-ring debut. Don't get me started on what they did with Dynamite, having him do a handicap match days before what should be his debut, but now it was just his pay-per-view debut. Lashley needed this win. Swerve was able to take the loss, but in this case, Lashley needed to come into this with a victory. They're trying to build this Hurt Syndicate. They're trying to give this faction validity, and the only thing that Shelton's doing is beating mid-carders or lower mid-carders at best. Like, he's beating Commander, a guy who is normally only on the 0 hour when he's on the show. Like, I mean, but that's the thing. Shelton's overperforming. And now, that's the thing. Lashley's the big guy. Lashley's the star in the Hurt Syndicate. And that's where this gets funky. I thought this match was done well. I don't think it was anything over the top phenomenal or great. Or I'm not going to say, oh yeah, I got to go rewatch that Lashley and Swerve match. But I thought it was very well done. Speaking that we've never really seen. It's been a long time since Lashley really had a pay-per-view match. Or a PLE match, if you want to talk about his time in WWE. This is kind of the first real time Lashley had a single spot in any point at that, and he delivered. He looked good. He looked like money. The physique is there. The athleticism's there. I'm glad he's not wearing the headband because it doesn't fit his character, but that man was sweating, and the headband's there to stop the sweat from getting in his eyes because of his tattooed eyebrows. But it was a solid match. It was good for what they needed to do, and what they needed to do was get Lashley a win. And that was the right choice.
Yeah, for predictability for results, I'll give you credit for sure. At least during the match, this one compared to the Takeshita match, they did for a second make me feel like Swerve had a shot, right? For at least a second, I kind of was like, well, wait a minute. Is he going to pull the upset? But to your point, it was equally probably, if not more predictable than Takeshita Ricochet. It's up there. It's between those two. And neither match did I dislike. It's just a predictability factor there. Let's get into our main event of the evening in our main event segment. And I'm excited to talk about this one because it's interesting. We had a great conversation about this pre-show, not to give everybody a little inside baseball, but we were talking about it, and I just said I really enjoyed the match. Obviously, I was there last year for Moxley and Cassidy at All Out. These two, every time they lock up, is actually really exciting. Orange has proven something to me. I'll tell you what, no doubt about it. The guy's tough as nails. And I do respect that. Post-match shenanigans. A lot of them. I like the Fast and Furious finish of the show where it's everybody involved. But I don't know if I like the order. And I don't know if I like the execution. I'm confused. This is my theory here before I toss this to you, Soul. This is what took me out of it. If there's one thing that took me out of it, I was so excited for the idea of, oh my goodness, Christian Cage is going to stand tall with the title to end this show. With the teased cash in, that once that we moved past that, I was like it's set in that it's not possible the title changes hands from here. Whatever happens is just going to be, story related and fighting, which I enjoy. Part of the reason that I tune in, but nobody's winning the title now, right? There was even like the slight tease. Was it Jay White that picked up the contract for a second, or was it
I think
Hangman?
it was Hangman because Hangman
It was
handed it to
Hangman picked it
Hangman
up
handed it to Christian,
and then handed it to Christian. Yeah. But then didn't Jay White pick it up after he ran down?
Yes,
I think he threw it out of the ring because
he threw
Cage
it out
was
of the ring. That's what it was. He got rid of it. But still, just once that was out of the, I wish that had come like maybe seconds before the Darby part of it. Now I get you got to probably keep Darby away from Christian when it comes to this because we know their history. So I'm really not sure. I don't know if it was an order thing or what it was, but it was the one thing on the show that for me personally, I was like, dang it, like this was like really close, but we could have done better here. Soul, you mentioned that you liked it. So I want you to break it down for me and like explain some of it to me if you can. 100%.
What is that, Clark?
I know.
No, tell me, what is it?
It's the AEW World Title, the original.
And everybody should want it, right? If you're in AEW, you should want the biggest title, the one that means you're the head of the company, right? So everybody should be chasing it, and especially with somebody like Moxley, who's now using it as his bargaining tool or his control chip, with it being literally locked in a briefcase and not been seen by people since WrestleDream. Heck, the ref even just lift up a briefcase. For all we know, Moxley could have filled it with bricks, and it's just a big troll. So here's the thing: going for each individual, Hangman would want it because obviously his original title run that he fought so far over his own personal grudges and friendships to defeat Kenny Omega was eventually dethroned by CM Punk, and then CM Punk got injured, led to the interim stuff, led to basically the bad run of this championship and kind of devaluing it until Jon Moxley got it for his third reign and elevating it with MJF. So he would want it. And also as well, Hangman's a psycho, so he'll just take on anybody. He doesn't care about which your allegiance is or whatever. And besides, well, Hangman in his own mind thinks he's the right person in his scenario. He always thinks he's right. He always thinks he's doing it for the betterment of himself. He thinks he's the man who's calling the right shots, while other people might view it as a negative viewpoint. Now, Christian Cage has obviously this contract opportunity, so he will challenge it on anyone, babyface, heel, whatever. And I've seen people say, well, Christian Cage turned into a face. And it's like, how? Because he got cheered? He's getting cheered for doing the whole dead dash stuff. Like, it's not like he turned face when he said, and your dad's deed, and yours dad deed. It's like, oh my God, this guy is such a lovable babyface. Oh, I love him so much. It's like, no. It doesn't matter if a babyface or a heel holds it. Christian Cage will absolutely challenge on anybody. So there's that factor as well. Jay White, Grand Slam Australia, we have that coming up. So you want to build somebody from the hometown that's going to challenge for the AEW World Championships, which will be a babyface Jay White. I think Jay White as a babyface will do absolutely wonders. I don't get why everyone thinks he should be, typecasted as a heel forever. It was great in New Japan, yes, but you should always show you have a versatility in your tool set. Working a babyface will be a great way for Jay White to show that tool set, and he's also great. People cheer him
like that.
I think he's great as a worker. So I feel like at World End will probably be Hangman. Revolution, I'm not too sure. Maybe Kenny Omega after his Wrestle Dynasty match against Gabe Kidd. Then we'll do Grand Slam Australia with Jay White, and then with All in Texas, it'll be Darby Allin and Jon Moxley. Now, obviously, there was the stuff with the car afterwards. It's Darby Allin. The guy jumps off ladders through glass panes, lacerating his whole back. He got hit by a bus and broke his foot and couldn't do Mount Everest. And, he wasn't injured or anything like that. PW Insider said no major injuries from the show, so he's fine. So people saying he had a concussion because he couldn't climb a broken truck whose front bumper fell off. Not even I could do that, and I'm mostly intoxicated half the time. So he was fine. So he's able to do that. He's an absolutely fine gentleman. And I think, as well, if you're going to do something, first stadium show in the States for AEW, All in Texas sales are doing pretty well in the pre-sales. You do a match like the Moxley has done before for the championship that was, went up in sparkles. Do exploding barbed wire death match between Jon Moxley and Darby Allin. If you want to raise the stakes, do that. The young blood guard. Because look, that match type before, it wasn't the best. Obviously Impact funded the explosion, so they don't have the budget for anything mostly half the time. But look, every opportunity you can in a stadium show with John Moxley, who is known as a hardcore guy with all the CCW and GCW run, even a wee bit on the WWE side, and Darby Allin, the man who pushed himself to any limits to die. You've got an absolute mix between the two.
I hear that. Exploding barbed wire death makes some sense. I was hoping if we're gonna go with Onita shout outs, I'm looking for a moat with piranhas. That's the one thing we haven't done yet. I'm looking for a moat with piranhas. That's all I'm saying. If we're gonna shout out Onita in the future, I'm looking for fish with teeth. That's the next frontier for when it comes to AEW death style matches. No, but I do hear where you're coming from. And I agree with Darby Allin is supposed to be the craziest person in the building, and he appeared as such last night. There's no debate about that. Ignacio, I am relatively confident you have different thoughts on this one, so I'm gonna go to you next. How did you feel about the ending of this show?
Let me ask this. Was Darby Allin really driving the car?
I think he was.
Probably.
I actually think he was.
Knowing Darby, probably.
How stupid is that? How stupid is that to have the person that is perceived to be the next challenger or main star or your top babyface driving a car at, I don't know what the speed was, ramming a truck.
Fast enough, the impact was loud.
Serious injury. What's that?
I said fast enough, the impact was loud.
Yeah.
Like when of the crash.
Having one of your top babyfaces risking potential injury, possibly taking him off TV for months at a time. How dumb is that? Not only to mention that this pay-per-view, this segment, along with tying it into the Swerve and Lashley match, reinforced my thought that AEW doesn't know how to book baby faces. Because when Swerve won the AEW titles, which what everybody wanted at the time, everybody thought he's the next big thing, he's the next big star, he's the next big baby face. All I saw for 6 weeks in a row was him getting buried on AEW television.
Yeah.
Getting beat down with no recovery whatsoever. This past week, you see Darby Allin against Claudio, which Claudio just rubbed the mat with him 85% of the time.
He did.
And it's like, okay, so this guy's supposed to be the next big babyface star, face of the company to challenge Moxley, possibly taking the belt from him. He's supposed to be the threat when somebody from Moxley's same faction just wiped the floor with him and beat him like nothing.
Yes.
They can't book a babyface to save their life.
100%. I hear you there. I don't think it's all baby faces, but it's they're struggling with the babyface side, and I totally agree. I will say we are way up against time here, so Coby, you're gonna have to give us the fastest 1-minute breakdown in the history of matches before we send everybody home. Coby, your 60 seconds starts now.
I gotta channel my inner Excalibur, but this is, of course, the rubber match that we thought of. I mean, they had, like you said, All Out. Last year's Full Gear was kind of an underwhelming Cassidy and Moxley match as well. This is not as good as last year's All Out. This was a fine main event. It looked good. It was well done. The blading made sense because you have Moxley willing to go to those depths and bring the pain and bring all the suffering and all that. Then you have the run-ins, which were nice. You had of course, you had Claudio and Pac, and then you had the conglomeration, which dumb name, whatever. But of course, they're coming to the aid of their friend Orange Cassidy. I like the Willow Pop. The Willow Pop. We finally have someone who can feud with Marina Shafir.
Yes,
which
sir.
is nice. And then Yuta being the difference maker kind of makes sense based on what the build was, and that was Cassidy going, "You suck, and you're a puppet." And maybe they just proved it that he was the puppet to help him. The ending, like Ignacio said, and if it was Darby driving, I mean, how stupid are you?
All right, thank you so much, everybody that tuned in. I'm sorry, I'm right up against time. We love everybody, and we wish we could talk about this the rest of the day. Normally we would, but not today. Thank you, everyone that tuned in. Thumbs up. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Please do. It helps us out immensely. On behalf of me, Clark Taylor, Ignacio, Coby, Soul, everybody here at WR, thank you so much. Have a happy Thanksgiving week. Have a great Sunday. We will talk to everybody soon. Same time, same place tomorrow here on the Daily. Check out everything else on the platform. Check out the Soul Sessions. Check out all of it. Please, we'll talk to you soon. And yeah, I'm going to do it one more time. Have a great Sunday.